I don't know if I'll ever feel safe in my own home again. It's been 4 days since it happened, and I still can't sleep. I check the locks twice, sometimes 3 times before bed. Every noise makes my heart jump. My own shadow in the hallway sends chills down my spine. I tell myself I'm being paranoid, that it's over. But then I remember the note. I'll be back soon. Wait for me. And I know this isn't over. I live alone in a small one-bedroom house in the suburbs. It's not fancy, but it's mine. I work from home, doing freelance web design, so I spend most of my time here. It's quiet, peaceful. At least it was. That night started like any other. I made dinner, watched a few episodes of some show I wasn't really paying attention to, and got ready for bed. It was a little past midnight when I finally turned off the lights and crawled under the covers. And then I heard it. A noise. At first, I thought I imagined it, maybe just the house settling. But then it came again, faint but distinct. A shuffle, the soft creak of a floorboard. I held my breath. My bedroom door was closed, but my ears strained for any sound beyond it. My mind raced through possibilities. Maybe I forgot to lock the front door. Maybe it was just the wind rattling the windows. Or maybe another noise. Closer. Someone was in my house. Panic shot through me like ice. I sat up slowly, careful not to make a sound. My phone was on the nightstand. I grabbed it, my hands shaking, and tried to dial 911. No signal. I stared at the screen in disbelief. My phone had service all day. A floorboard creaked just outside my door. I froze. The handle turned. Oh God. I scrambled out of bed, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would give me away. There was only one place to hide: the closet. I slipped inside, pressing myself against the back wall just as my bedroom door swung open. I held my breath. Through the slats, I could see a shadow move across the room. A tall figure dressed in black, moving slowly, methodically. He was looking for me. I don't know how long I stood there, barely breathing. I could hear him rifling through my drawers, opening my nightstand, searching. Then, silence. I dared to peek through the slats. The room was empty. For a moment, I thought maybe he'd left. Maybe he thought I wasn't home. Then, suddenly, the closet door slammed open. I screamed. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. I yanked away, stumbling backward, knocking over a stack of shoeboxes. My only thought was run. I bolted out of the closet, through the bedroom, down the hall. I didn't look back. I heard him behind me, his footsteps pounding against the floor as he chased me. I veered into the kitchen, yanking open drawers, searching blindly for something, anything I could use as a weapon, a knife. My fingers closed around the handle just as I felt his hand grab the back of my shirt. I swung wildly, the blade slicing through the air. I missed. He didn't. A hard shove sent me crashing into the counter. My head smacked against the edge, and everything went black. I woke up to pain. My head throbbed, my wrists burned. I tried to move, couldn't. My arms and legs were bound to a chair in my living room. Panic surged through me. I struggled, pulling against the ropes, but they only dug deeper into my skin. Across the room, the man was going through my things. He wasn't in a hurry. He moved slowly, opening drawers, flipping through books, like he had all the time in the world. I forced myself to breathe, to think, stay calm. Wait for your chance. I watched as he emptied my wallet, stuffing the cash into his pocket. He took my laptop, my car keys, even the stupid watch my ex gave me. Then he turned to me. I stopped breathing. He walked over, crouching so we were eye level. His face was covered by a ski mask, but I could see his eyes, cold, empty. He didn't speak. Didn't ask me where I kept anything. Because this wasn't just a robbery. He wanted me to be afraid. And it was working. Then, without a word, he stood up and went back to looting my house. That's when I saw my chance. The knots weren't perfect. I twisted my wrist, forcing my fingers through the loop, pulling, tugging. Slowly, painfully, I worked myself free. I kept still, watching him. He was in the kitchen now, shoving food into a bag like he planned to stay for a while. I didn't think. I just moved. I lunged forward, my feet barely touching the floor as I ran. He turned. For a split second, we locked eyes. Then he charged. I sprinted down the hall, nearly tripping over myself as I reached the front door. I fumbled with the lock, my hands slick with sweat. The door flew open. I ran outside, into the street, into the night, screaming for help. Lights flicked on in neighboring houses. A porch door swung open, but I didn't stop. I ran until my lungs burned, until I collapsed on someone's lawn, gasping for air. By the time the police arrived, the man was gone. They found signs of forced entry. My place was trashed. But there was no security footage, no fingerprints, nothing to go on. They told me I was lucky to be alive. I didn't feel lucky. I packed a bag and stayed at a friend's house for a few days. I didn't want to be alone. Then, yesterday, I had to go back, just to grab some more clothes, some important papers. I told myself it was fine, that he was long gone. But when I stepped inside, the air felt wrong, like someone had been there. I checked every room, every closet. Nothing was missing. Nothing had been touched. Except for one thing, a folded piece of paper on my kitchen table, with 6 words written in neat, careful handwriting. I'll be back soon. Wait for me. I ran out of the house. I haven't been back since, and I don't think I ever will. I work nights at a gas station just off the highway. Not the worst job, not the best. It's quiet most of the time, which is fine by me. I stock shelves, ring up the occasional trucker or late-night traveler, and try not to fall asleep between the beeps of the register. My name's Eric, by the way. I'm 26, no college degree, no real ambitions, just drifting. The job pays enough to cover rent and food, and that's all I need right now. The night shift suits me, no bosses breathing down my neck, no rush hour crowds. Just me, the hum of the refrigerators, and the faint sound of traffic beyond the glass doors. Most nights are uneventful. Most nights. Then there was last night. Last night was different. It started at around 2 a.m. I was behind the counter, scrolling through my phone, when I heard the bell chime over the door. I looked up. The man who walked in wore all black hoodie, black jeans, black gloves. But what got me was the mask. A cheap white plastic thing, like one of those blank Halloween masks you can buy at the dollar store. No features, no expression, just 2 empty eye holes. A little weird, sure. But I'd seen weirder. We get plenty of sketchy types this time of night, guys looking to score cigarettes, drunks grabbing snacks before heading home. He walked slowly, deliberately, like he had all the time in the world. I watched as he moved down the first aisle, then the second. He didn't pick anything up, didn't even pretend to browse, just walked. After a minute, I cleared my throat. "You need help finding something?" He stopped, turned his head toward me, and then just stood there, staring. A chill ran up my spine. "Sir?" I tried again. No response. We stood like that for what felt like forever, neither of us moving, neither of us speaking. Then, finally, he turned and walked toward the exit. The bell jingled as he stepped outside. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Okay, that was weird. But whatever, probably just some guy messing around. Not my problem. Still, I felt uneasy. I glanced at the security monitors. The parking lot was mostly empty, just my beat-up Honda and a single truck parked by the pumps. The man in the mask was standing near the edge of the lot, facing the store, watching. I swallowed hard and looked away. He wasn't breaking any laws. If he wanted to stand there all night, I couldn't exactly stop him. I tried to shake it off and went back to my phone. For a while, nothing happened. The minutes ticked by. I stocked some shelves, counted the till, did the usual end of shift routine. After a while, I stopped checking the monitors. And then, just before 3 a.m., the power went out. Everything went black. The hum of the refrigerators died. The lights overhead flickered, then cut out completely. Only the glow of the emergency exit sign remained, casting a dull red light across the aisles. My stomach twisted. I grabbed the flashlight from under the counter and flicked it on. The beam cut through the darkness, bouncing off shelves and displays. Power outages weren't unheard of, but they were rare. Maybe the storm earlier had knocked something out. Maybe a blown transformer. Then I heard it. A noise from the back. A shuffle. A scrape. My breath caught. Someone was inside. I gripped the flashlight tighter, my pulse hammering in my ears. Slowly, I stepped out from behind the counter, sweeping the beam across the store. Nothing. But I wasn't imagining it. I knew I'd heard something. "Hello?" My voice came out hoarse. "We're closed." Silence. I took another step forward, my sneakers squeaking against the tile. The air felt heavy, thick. Then, a shadow moved. Near the stockroom. I froze. The door to the back room was slightly open, just a crack. It had been shut before. I was sure of it. I swallowed, trying to steady my breathing. Look, man, if you're trying to scare me, it's working. I tried to keep my voice light, but you need to get the hell out. No response. I hesitated, then reached for my phone. No signal, of course. I had two options: go outside and call for help, or check the stockroom myself. The smart choice was to leave, but something kept me rooted in place. Something about the way the door hung open, the way the air felt too still, too quiet. I took another step, then another. The flashlight beam wavered as I reached for the stockroom door. I pushed it open. The room was empty. Boxes stacked against the walls, metal shelves lined with junk, a mop bucket in the corner. Nothing unusual. I let out a shaky breath. Maybe I was just freaking myself out. Maybe. Then I heard breathing, right behind me. I spun around, the flashlight slipping from my grip. For a split second, in the dim red glow, I saw him, the man in the mask, standing inches away. I didn't have time to scream. He moved fast, faster than I expected. One hand clamped over my mouth, the other gripping my wrist, forcing me back. I struggled, kicked, tried to break free, but he was strong, too strong. He dragged me toward the front of the store, past the empty aisles, past the counter, toward the doors, and that's when I saw the second man, dressed the same black clothes, white mask, standing outside waiting. Oh God, this wasn't a prank. This wasn't just some weirdo messing with me. This was planned. I thrashed harder, twisting, jerking, trying to get free. My elbow connected with his ribs, and for a moment his grip loosened. I wrenched away, stumbling toward the counter. He lunged. I grabbed the only thing within reach, the heavy-duty flashlight, and swung. It cracked against his skull. He staggered, falling back. I didn't wait. I ran. The glass doors wouldn't budge. They were locked. From the outside, the second man stood there, motionless, watching. Behind me, the first man groaned, pushing himself up. I was trapped. Think, the storeroom, the emergency exit. I bolted back, heart hammering. The emergency door was my only shot. I hit the bar. It didn't open. No, 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 no. A whisper, close, right behind me. You shouldn't have run. Pain exploded in my skull. Everything went black. I woke up in the alley behind the station. It was morning. Sunlight burned my eyes. My head throbbed. I was alone. No sign of them. No sign they'd ever been there at all. The store was normal. Lights on, doors open. My manager was pissed I'd left mid-shift. The cameras? Nothing. The footage cut out at 2:58 a.m. No proof, no evidence. But I know what happened. And I know they'll be back. I used to think that if someone broke into my home, I'd hear it. I'd wake up, grab something heavy, and defend myself. But I was wrong. Because the night it happened, I didn't hear a thing. I only realized someone had been in my house when I woke up and saw the knife on my nightstand. It wasn't mine. I live alone in a small house at the edge of town. I moved in about 6 months ago after finally landing a decent remote job in tech support. It's nothing exciting, but it pays the bills. I spend most of my time working, gaming, and ordering too much takeout. I don't have many friends around here. I like my space, my routine, and I never thought, not even once, that someone would try to take that from me. The night before it happened was like any other. I stayed up late watching YouTube, brushed my teeth, and passed out around 1 a.m. When I woke up the next morning, the first thing I noticed was how off everything felt. It wasn't anything obvious, just a strange sensation, like the air in the room was different, wrong. Then I saw it, a kitchen knife, sitting on my nightstand. I just stared at it, my brain struggling to make sense of it. I didn't take a knife to bed. I didn't get up in the middle of the night. So how did it get there? My stomach twisted. I sat up, scanning the room. The door was still closed. The window was locked. Nothing looked out of place. But I knew someone had been in my room while I was sleeping. Did I forget to lock the door? I tried to stay calm. Maybe I just forgot bringing it in. Maybe I had some weird half-asleep moment and didn't remember, but I knew that was a lie. I walked through my house, checking every door, every window, all locked. There was no sign of a break-in, no broken glass, no forced entry, and nothing was missing. Who breaks into a house and doesn't steal anything? I felt sick. I spent the whole day trying to convince myself it was nothing, that maybe I was just overtired, that I had somehow done it myself and just didn't remember. By evening, I had almost convinced myself. Almost. That night, I locked my bedroom door. I kept a bat next to my bed. I double-checked every lock in the house, but I couldn't sleep. Every noise made my skin crawl. The wind outside, the hum of my fridge, the tick of the clock, I heard everything. I don't know when I drifted off, but I woke up to something that made my blood run cold, a soft creak. Right outside my door, I lay completely still, my body frozen. Then another creak. Closer. Someone was in the hallway. I reached for my bat with shaking hands. My phone was on the nightstand, but I couldn't bring myself to move. I just listened. Silence. I waited, my pulse hammering in my ears. 5 minutes, 10, nothing. Finally, I got up. I forced myself to open the door, my bat raised, ready to swing. The hallway was empty. The front door was locked. The windows were still shut. And yet, I knew I had heard something. I barely slept that night. The next day, I installed cameras inside the house. Not just outside, inside. One in the living room, one in the hallway, and one in my bedroom, just in case. That night, I checked the cameras before going to bed. Nothing. So why did I still feel like I wasn't alone? I forced myself to sleep, trying to ignore the gnawing dread in my stomach. But when I woke up, my closet door was open. I never sleep with my closet open. Never. The knife was gone. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the camera footage from last night. The living room, nothing. The hallway, nothing. My bedroom. I stopped breathing. At 3:47 a.m., my closet door slowly creaked open. Not fast, not sudden, like someone was inside, pushing it open inch by inch. But no one came out. The door just stood open. Minutes passed, an hour, two. Then, at 5:12 a.m., the door closed. I stared at the screen, my hands ice cold. Someone had been in my closet, watching me, for hours. I didn't go to work that day. I didn't do anything. I just sat on my couch, gripping my bat, staring at my bedroom door. I should have called the police. I should have run. But I didn't, because deep down, I knew the truth. Whoever had been in my closet hadn't left. They were still in the house, hiding, watching, waiting. I had to end this. That night, I turned off all the cameras except one, the bedroom camera. I left the closet door open. Then I pretended to go to sleep. I lay there for hours, eyes closed, barely breathing. And then, at 3:33 a.m., I heard it, a soft shuffle, a barely audible creak of the closet floor. I forced myself to stay still. The sound was slow, careful. Whoever was in there was stepping out. My pulse pounded in my ears. I gripped my bat under the blanket. Then, a hand touched my blanket. I swung. The bat connected with something solid. A sickening crack, a scream. I bolted upright, flipping on the lamp, and I saw him. A man crawling on the floor, face half covered by a mask, blood dripping from his head. He tried to stand. I didn't let him. I hit him again and again, until he stopped moving. The police came. They found a small hatch in the attic, a space just big enough for someone to hide in. They found blankets, food wrappers, a notebook filled with disturbing notes about me. He'd been living in my house for weeks, watching me, studying me, planning. And the worst part? The last note he wrote, scrawled in shaky handwriting, tucked between the pages of a worn-out book. I was going to do it tonight. I don't know what he meant, but I don't think I want to. I've been working at Martin's Convenience for almost 3 years now. It's not the worst job, but it's not great either. It's the kind of place that smells like cheap coffee and old mop water, where the fluorescent lights buzz just enough to get on your nerves, and the customers are either too quiet or way too loud. My shift runs from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. graveyard shift. Just me, the register, and an old security camera mounted in the corner that barely works. It's not exactly a dangerous area, but every once in a while, we get the usual troubled drunks, shoplifters, the occasional guy trying to pass off a fake 20. Nothing had ever really scared me, though. Not until last night. It started out like any other shift. A few regulars came in. Mr. Donaldson, the old man who buys 2 scratch-offs every night and never wins. a couple of teenagers sneaking glances at the liquor aisle, and some guy in a hoodie who grabbed a six-pack and didn't say a word as he paid. Business as usual. Then, around 1 a.m., he walked in. At first, I didn't think much of him. He was average looking, maybe mid-40 seconds, medium build, dark hair cut short. He wore a brown jacket and jeans, the kind of outfit that makes a person forgettable. But there was something about him that felt. He didn't go to the aisles like most people. He just stood near the door for a minute, staring at the counter. At me. "Can I help you?" I asked. He didn't answer, just stepped forward, slow and deliberate, like he was testing the floor beneath him. Then he picked up a bag of chips from the nearest shelf and walked up to the counter. "Just this," he murmured. His voice was low, almost too low, like he wasn't used to speaking. I rang him up. He paid in cash. When I handed him his change, his fingers lingered against mine for just a second too long. They were ice cold. I forced a smile and pulled my hand away. "Have a good night." He didn't move, didn't leave. Just stood there, staring at me with dark, unblinking eyes. Then, finally, he said, "Do you ever think about dying in a place like this?" I felt my stomach drop. "What?" I forced out a laugh. He tilted his head, his expression blank. "I mean, it wouldn't be so bad, would it? Quick. Just someone walking in and..." He lifted his hand like a gun, thumb clicking against his index finger. I swallowed hard. "Yeah, I guess." He smiled then. Not a normal smile. The kind that stretches just a little too wide. Then, without another word, he picked up his chips and walked out. For the next hour, I couldn't shake the feeling he was still out there. Every time the automatic doors whooshed open, my stomach clenched, expecting to see him again. But it was just the usual people, some guy buying cigarettes, a woman in scrubs grabbing a coffee before her shift. Normal customers. By 2:30, I started to relax. Maybe the guy was just some weirdo. Maybe he was high. Then the phone rang. I answered on the second ring. "Martin's Convenience, how can I help you?" Silence. "Hello?" Then, just barely above a whisper, I heard it. Bang. My blood went cold. I slammed the phone down and took a shaky breath. My hands were trembling. "This is stupid," I told myself. "Just some prank, probably one of those teenagers messing with me." I tried to go back to work, but my nerves were shot. I kept glancing toward the front door, my reflection in the glass looking just as anxious as I felt. And then, at 3 a.m., he came back. He didn't buy anything this time, didn't even pretend to. He just stood outside, hands in his jacket pockets, watching me through the glass. I tried to ignore him, act like I didn't see him, but he knew I saw. I could feel his eyes locked on mine, unwavering. Minutes passed, 10, 15, he didn't move. Screw this. I grabbed the store's phone and dialed the non-emergency police line. "Yeah, hi, this is, Jason. I work at Martin's on 5th Street. There's a guy out front, just standing there. He's been watching me for a while, and he's acting kind of..." The dispatcher sounded half asleep. Weird how. I glanced outside. He was still there, still staring. "He was in here earlier," I said something really unsettling. And then he called the store, I think. Just said, I hesitated. Just said, bang, and hung up. The dispatcher was silent for a moment. Then she sighed. "We'll send a unit by to check it out. Thanks." I hung up. Outside, the man was gone. The cops showed up 20 minutes later. 2 of them, one older, one younger. They looked around, took my statement, and nodded like they'd heard this kind of thing 1,000 times before. "If he comes back, don't engage," the older cop said. "Just call us." "Right," I muttered. They left, and for the first time that night, I started to feel okay. Like maybe it really was over. Then, at 3:45, the power cut out. The whole store went dark. The only light came from the street lamps outside, throwing long, eerie shadows across the aisles. My stomach twisted. I reached under the counter for my phone, but before I could grab it, I heard it. A footstep. Not from outside, from inside the store. I froze. I wasn't alone. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear breathing. Slow, steady, too close. I backed toward the counter, my fingers closing around something cold, one of the metal flashlights we keep for power outages. I flicked it on. The beam landed on the man. He was standing at the end of the aisle, hands still in his pockets, his face expressionless. My throat closed up. My voice barely came out. "How did you get in?" He took a step closer. My mind was screaming, but my body wouldn't move. Another step. I gripped the flashlight like a weapon. Stay back. He tilted his head. You called the cops, he murmured. I swallowed. He smiled that too wide smile. And then, very calmly, he pulled something from his pocket. A gun. My vision blurred. My ears rang. Do you ever think about dying in a place like this? He whispered. Bang.